Hey guys, good evening. Running a couple minutes late. Bedtime ran a little bit over this evening. I'm going to settle in here for a second and give people a chance to jump on if you'd like. I had a really, really profound weekend in Indiana, and I've been given, and so many people have reached out with information and stories since, 2 weeks ago or so, a little over 2 weeks ago, when I talked about what was happening with my dad and the church experience that I have had through my life. And I really didn't know, I knew that, I know from being a victim myself that other victims' stories are not my stories to tell, right? I 100% will stand by that. But with the amount of information I've been given from lots of different sources and lots of different people, this story spread way further than I was expecting it to, but it spread because people have been affected by not only the person that I called my father, Eddie Hevner, but also people that are friends with him. And I know so much, and it has lived in my head for a very, very, very long time because I didn't feel safe enough to say anything. But I believe it's time to shed some light on some of the wolves in the pack that were aware of the abuse that my family was going through. And instead of holding my father accountable like friends should, handed him the microphone and said, "Here you go." I have done a lot of praying about talking about this. I have done a lot of soul searching. I actually have spent a lot of day in prayer today and have notes and stuff because I'm trying to not be as erratic as I was the last time I shared. This is healing for me. This is me reclaiming my story personally. But unfortunately, it has to do with a lot of, at least one, but probably a lot of people and pastors that you may know if you know me from my upbringing. So, first I'm going to address the why a little bit more of why I'm talking about this, and then I'm going to share the who. I'm choosing to speak out about this because of all of the other hundreds of thousands of victims, not only of my upbringing, but of upbringing similar to mine. All of the hundreds of thousands of pastors' kids that went through the same kind of abuse that I went through at home, that never got help, that still struggled till the day that they died. My dad being one of them. And he's still here. I am sharing this because from my experience with the Bible, it is important to stand up for the little people because that's what Jesus did. Jesus stood up for the little people. Jesus spoke out for the children and the widows and the hurting and the lame and the weak. And I have been one of those people my entire life, and a lot of my friends have been one of those people my entire life. And further than that, being raised in the ministry and being an adult now, I am watching so many adults. I keep saying adults like I'm not a grown-up, but like people much older than me, the generation before me struggle because of who they called pastor and who pastor called friend. And none of the people in the pews knew. But I did. I said nothing. I kept my mouth shut. I sat in the back of those cars with the pastors listening to all of their conversations, all of the things that were shared in between. I reached out to this person in particular that I'm going to address today. And because of my personal experience with this man, and because of the things that have been confirmed in the last 10, 12, I don't know, however many days, I am choosing to call out someone that very actively enabled the abuse that I was going through. and knew the abuse that I was going through and chose not to help because of the ministry. Ironically enough. I'm going to read a couple verses and a couple things that I wrote down today that Holy Spirit just really gave me while I was praying about this. And then I'm going to share my truth. And if you're watching this, thank you for hanging on. This might take me a second to get through. I'm very calm. And I'm not super emotional, but the nerves are there talking about this, you know. So bear with me. I am reading out of a King James Bible, okay? This is the Bible that I bought back in 2017 when I was still a part of the church. Well, not my dad's church anymore. No, I was still in his church when I bought this Bible. And I've gone back to it in the last year because the healing that I've gone through in the last 5 years has helped me understand who Jesus really is outside of the Baptist church that I was raised under. Because I have a lot of love for Jesus. I have so much love for Jesus, but the theology just became so much more confusing over time. And so I'm going to go to the Bible to back what I am doing right now, to explain to the Christians that are watching this, that are going to probably be very upset when I start naming this name. This is why I am doing this. It is this book right here. It is because I was raised to love it so much, and I learned it so much that I do love it that much. This is why I am sharing, because if I were to sit here and ask myself, what would Jesus do in my situation? Jesus would not stay silent, and I know that, because Jesus loves all of the little children and all of the big children that are running around acting like crazy people right now. But no one's addressing, and there's no accountability. So, I'm going to read Matthew chapter 18, verses 1 through 10. I'm going to start there. There's a couple verses I'm going to read. And then I want to go flip over to James, and then I'm going to kind of share what I'm doing here. And this is not a Bible study, for the record. I know I've done those in the past. That is not what this is. I'm using the Bible to back my actions right now, for record. Okay. Matthew chapter 18. In my King James Bible, verses 1 through 10, I'm going to read. Yep, all right. At the same time came the disciples unto Jesus, saying, Who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? And Jesus called a little child unto him, and set in the midst of them, and said, Verily I say unto you, except ye be converted, and become as little children, ye shall not enter into the kingdom of heaven. Whosoever therefore shall humble himself as this little child, the same is greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And whoso shall receive one such little child in my name receiveth me. Verse 6. But whoso shall offend or hurt one of these little ones which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged around his neck, and that he were drowned in the depths of the sea. Woe unto the world because of his offenses, for it must be that offenses come, but woe unto that man by whom the offense cometh. Wherefore if thy hand or thy foot offend thee, cut them off, and cast them from thee. It is better for thee to enter into life halt or maimed, rather than having 2 hands or 2 feet to be cast into everlasting fire. And if thine eye offend thee, pluck it out, and cast it from thee. It is better for thee to enter into life with 1 eye, rather than having 2 eyes to be cast into hellfire. Take heed that ye despise not of these little ones. For I say unto you, that in heaven their angels do always behold the face of my Father which is in heaven. I'm going to go to the Old Testament now. And I'm going to go to Ezekiel chapter 33, verse 8. When I say unto the wicked, O wicked man, thou shalt surely die, if thou dost not speak to warn the wicked from his way, that wicked man shall die in his iniquity, but his blood will I require at thine hand. Luke 12:48. For unto whomsoever much is given, of him shall much be required. And to whom men have committed much, of him they will ask more. This is talking to the spiritual leaders, the prophets, and the people that know to do good and don't do it. In my perspective, that is heavily like and to whom men have committed much, of him will they ask more. That absolutely points to pastors and spiritual leaders, in my personal opinion. And that lines up with the Bible and Jesus' message. James, all the way in the New Testament, James chapter 4, verse 17. to him that knoweth to do good, and doeth it not, to him it is sin. When I was a teenager and a young girl, going through the abuse that we were going through in our home, and standing on the platforms that I stood on, singing and testifying and praising God in the name of all things holy, outside of the abuse that my father had going on, he was hiding very well, his best friend in the whole entire world, they've been friends since diapers, is Billy Sampson. Earlier this year, I wrote a poem about Billy, entitled The Song of Sanctified Silence, also known as Dear Billy, because I hit a breaking point with him. And I'm going to share my experience now with Billy Sampson. And I am no longer afraid to name his name, because he is someone that was supposed to protect me. He is someone that should have, by the Bible standards, not because he was obligated to my father, because he is a missionary in the name of Jesus, because he is a preacher in the name of this Bible. So I'm not sharing this story because he is my father's best friend, or was. I don't even know what that is now. I'm sharing this story because if I had heard this story objectively and knew no parties at all, I would absolutely still be addressing this. Because that man has been in ministry and traveling the nation, I think at least 30 years. Or maybe like 29, 27. I think he started a couple years after I was born. He knew about the abuse that my father put my mom through before he was ever named a pastor, all while he was also actively in the ministry, going to high school with my father, going through school like not just preacher buddy friends. My grandpa and his dad are like friends, they were family friends. Through my teen years, I personally called Billy Sampson, begging him for help. When I found my father in the bathtub at 14 years old, after he had the affair with the piano teacher that I grew up with, that Billy also knew, I called Billy. I'm pretty sure I'm the one who gave him the news, and he was in Wales. I was 14. I trusted him. His daughters were like my sisters. We had sleepovers together. Our families were friends. But because of the ministry that Billy was building for himself, and because of the relationship he had with my father, and because of the fact that my father, you know my dad. If you meet him, you never forget him. You either know him for something good or you know him for something bad, but he is not someone you ever forget. My dad took that first church. Billy became a missionary, and they traveled and sang all over the country, singing for Jesus with the girls. I followed suit. My sisters and I followed suit, singing and practicing, and every time we were around them, all the time in the world together. And when the truth came out about what happened at the first church, because I called and told him the truth about all of it, about the text messages, everything that I saw for myself, I had no idea at the time, but I know as an adult now. He knew. I don't know if he knew before I told him, or if he found out the truth of how bad it was after. But because I chose to speak my truth a few weeks ago, it has come to light that all of the things that I have convinced myself that he just did not believe of me because I was a child and I was a teenager and that was his friend. There were other grown-ups in my life actively advocating for me to Billy Sampson because everyone knew that it was my father's best friend. And he chose to stay out of it and keep his mouth shut because it was better for his pocketbook, better for the ministry that he was trying to build, and easier to go preach the name of Jesus without that junk. I have tried speaking to Billy Sampson about this over the years. He's watched me struggle as an adult. Actually, I'm going to read you guys why I ended up writing that poem earlier this year. So at the beginning, and I'm going to just kind of, like this all happened in my teens, I'm calling him and everything. I was telling him, no, he never intervened. Never, ever. I went on missions trips with him. My first missions trip was with him and Pastor Clement Chappelle, the pastor I was with on Sunday. The love that I have for the congregations is part of the reason that I am speaking this truth. Because my heart is hurting to think about the thousands of other pastors probably, that he has befriended over the ministry that he circles around with. All of the people he must have taken to dinner. All of the times he said, pray for Eddie and Dawn because Jillian's struggling. Pray for Eddie and Dawn. Jillian's putting them through it again. Pray for Eddie and Dawn. Jillian, have you heard what Jillian's done? And that didn't just come from him. But he helped spread that because people listened. People listened to him. And instead of using his responsibility or to him that knoweth to do God, to him that knoweth to do good and doeth it not, he taught me the Bible. He preaches it every Sunday. And to learn the things that I have learned in the last 2 weeks of my life, from all sorts of different aspects of my history, that also intertwines, ironically enough, with Billy Sampson's history, is why I've chosen to speak out, because there are hundreds of people hurting right now. Not just because of my father, but because of the people that enabled him. My family is hurting right now because my father picked someone that he called friend, and that friend was not a good one. Because instead of holding my father accountable, he used my father until my dad got even crazier. And in my teen years, I watched Billy Sampson ostracize my father. I watched him not call my dad back. I watched their friendship separate, because then it was messy for Billy, because he knew the truth. And I know for a fact that he did not give the full truth to the other pastors in his circles. Maybe some of them, but probably not, because it protected his ministry. All of those pastors knew my dad. They were intertangled together. The majority of them, way back then. Now, not so much. But earlier this year, let's see, the last time I saw him in person was probably I think it was before I left the church. I saw him at a revival meeting that I went to, and I was struggling hardcore with my PTSD at the time. I had all 4 of my babies at that point. I think it was probably in 2019. And I saw him, and I think 2 of his girls were with him. And we sat in that church in Elkhart after the service, and I talked to him about how I was struggling, all of the flashbacks that were coming back from the things that I had confided him in as a teenager that he already knew about. He knew how much I was struggling. And then I went on my journey. A year later, COVID happened. The churches shut their doors. My brain literally broke. And I realized I was raised in a cult mentality. I am not saying that Christianity itself is a cult. I love the Bible and I love Jesus. But what I was raised under and the belief system and the theology around it is not what Jesus' message was. And it's not my job to go fix other people's story. And I'm not going to talk to people that won't listen. But the amount of people that have come to me in the last 2 weeks because they have gone to the leader in their church, or they've gone to the church people that they thought they should with the information that they had, it's being fallen on deaf ears, and the churches are not handling this situation as they should. And I went to the appropriate pastors and the leaders to warn them before I ever shared this live, however many weeks ago, to give them a heads up, to brace, because the congregations are going to need some support. I had no clue what was about to start unfolding. I had no clue how in-depth things were. I didn't know that Billy knew as much as he did, because I thought it was all in my head. Nope. So I had added Billy on Facebook at some point in this time frame, because I think I still had love for him, because it felt safer to love him than hate him, if that makes sense. But the more I watched my family struggle, the harder it's been not to be angry at the people that knew and didn't help. And he is at the top of that list. He is at the absolute top of that list, and has been for my before I was born. Okay? At the beginning of this year, after Donald Trump took, I think it was this year, after Donald Trump officially took in on January 20th. Billy Sampson made a post showing pictures of the Border Patrol trucks driving around 8094 around downtown Chicago. And I need to say this right now. I am not a political person. I don't vote. I think it's all a big game. But the reason I am speaking out on these politics specifically is because the amount of Christians that I was raised by and raised with that are MAGA is insane. Absolutely insane. I can respect someone that has Republican views. Absolutely. I can respect someone that has Democratic views. Absolutely. What I cannot, and I don't agree with either party. I don't. I don't vote. I'm independent probably, honestly. I don't know. I don't do that stuff. But watching this movement take over the country, that my children are being raised into and are growing into, the futures that I'm supposed to be leaving behind for my children, I can no longer sit in silence. Because most of the Christians that I was raised by, the pastors, they don't get political. Jesus wasn't political. Jesus didn't talk politics. Jesus loved people and met them where they were. But Billy Sampson is not one of those people. Billy chose to jump on the MAGA train so hard, and I still, for the life of me, cannot understand. No, I do. My logic brain understands why. It's a lot of psychology and generational trauma and general wrong teachings of the Bible, okay? That is how we've been in this for generations, and I understand that. But also, it's hard for me to logically understand how these people go that route and do not address things within the church. They want to preach it all day. But after living what I've experienced with Billy Sampson, and then you're going to go jump on that, I'm not staying quiet anymore, because this is affecting everything. This is, you're going to go spread the love of Jesus, but spread this hate? I can't, because this is my children's future. My children's future. So he made a post with pictures of the Border Patrol thing, and I took some Snapchat shots. Well, actually, I'd forgotten about it, to be honest with you. I didn't forget about the post, but I forgot about what he said to me on that post. And this is what fueled the writing of, the Song of Sanctified Silence, the Dear Billy poem that I released. And he was, praising Trump for getting on it so fast, and it was cleaning up our streets. And I understand that premise, but that's not what's going down. All of these innocent people are being hurt and persecuted right now, and that is not, they're not following the checks and balances. So don't even argue that with me. And if you're going to come here and argue, you can go, because that's not what this post is about. And I'm going to say that very clearly. If you're going to start coming on here and coming at me for talking about Billy because you know him personally, so do I. So do I. And that is why I'm saying this. So for both of our sakes, you can keep it to yourself. I'm not going to engage in it. I'm going to try not to react to it, but this is a still learning curve for me, and I'm learning to respond. I'm learning to respond, not react. I was very blinded though, and it triggered me when I saw this post, because that's not who Jesus is. And I commented intentionally, knowing that I was going to delete him so that I could not go back and argue, but I wanted all of those people that were going to jump on his post to see this. I said, Jesus was an immigrant. No way on planet Earth, Jesus or God himself would condone this. God is not confined by the rules of man's landlines. I cannot believe the ignorance in this. Enjoy your Antichrist. This was back in January. A lot of people started attacking me, and I knew they would. That's why I deleted myself. I wanted to make sure that comment stayed at the top of that thread, and can I tell you it still is? But I want to read to you what Billy's response was to me. Billy the preacher. Billy the missionary in Jesus' name. Billy the one who knows my entire past history, because I have told him, and other adults were telling him too. Dear, you obviously didn't read what I said, so I guess you're okay with illegal immigrants that rape, yada, yada, yada. And I'm going to jump the political stuff because he starts there first. But then he says, now as far as your little comment about who you think Jesus is, and who you think he was, I have seen your posts. You have said you don't believe in God. I have never once said that I was an atheist. I've never been an atheist. I bounced around with the idea for a little bit, but I've come back to some type of higher power. You've said you don't believe in God. You have shown great disrespect to those you know read your posts. We see it. We all see it. It doesn't change that I love you. This post doesn't change a thing. You have something to say to me, you have my number. I have known you your entire life. I have listened to your complaints about your upbringing. My complaints while I'm getting strangled and abused and finding my father in a bathtub and having affairs. My complaints. I have watched you battle a lot of things, but you aren't getting a pass here just because of our family's past. You are wrong about this, and you have taken out of context once again something that you disagree with, and brought Jesus up for your convenience. Well, say what you want and believe what you want, but you say it here, get ready for a rebuttal. Now have a good night. I love you and pray for you more often than you can ever imagine. And the next time I see you, and I will see you, you can say whatever you want to say, and when you're done, I'll hug your neck and tell you I love you. Selah. I never engaged. I never responded. Like I said, I had deleted him from my friends list as soon as I made the comment because I didn't want to engage in that. But that was what this pastor missionary chose to respond to me. A victim of insane amounts of abuse that he is very well aware of. I have called Billy personally lots, and I do still have his phone number. I am taking this route because I am tired of falling on deaf ears, and I'm realizing that outside of me, that man has probably hurt a whole lot of other people too because of keeping his mouth shut. The circle that he runs with right now, C.T. Townsend. When C.T. came to Indiana all of those years ago and they had the whole Tri-County revival, I heard this from one of the pastors in that circle, my father, the one who has no filter and just spills the truth out. As partial truths. CT has not been back above the Mason-Dixon line, at least from what I understood. He refused to come back because there was not enough money in it. He could not make the money that he needed bringing his little gallivant of people to Northwest Indiana and Chicago. So he has stayed planted. I'm pretty sure he's in Virginia, West Virginia. I don't even know. But I've watched Billy suck into that. I've watched Billy go around and taking money from all of the people and go on all of those and do all of those things. Good for you for Jesus blessing your life. But is it really a blessing when you are hiding the secrets of so many? Even if you just hide the secrets of that one pastor affected 2 different congregations, youth groups prior to that. And what about the children in that family? What about the wife in that family? I never responded to that comment. I actually did forget about it because I went on to write that poem, and that is how I processed my anger. Hang on one second, because there's more to this. So fast forward to the summer, and my ex-husband moves back to Indiana, just up and leaves, loses his job. I am going through it as a single mother. My business has gotten shut down over the summer. I was professionally bullied by it was just a mess. I lost my business. No income. Now my ex-husband's moved out of the state. I don't have child support. And I started GoFundMe. It didn't really take off. I've had people support me and send me help for that. And I am very, very grateful if you're one of those people. Please do not take this as not support or not gratitude, because I am so grateful. But I also recognized the need that I had. And I recognized how many people I have ministered to in my life that I am still in contact with. And my family and my parents and who they're still in contact with. And I was hopeful that I could use that support to get myself somewhere out of the hole that I'm in with my children. Because I don't have this support like that here in Greenville currently. I was not met with that kind of support. And that is what it is. But I got angry. It is what it is at the time. I was very angry because that is what the church is supposed to do. That's what my family is supposed to do, is support me and help me. But because my decisions are messy, and because my decisions are dirty, and because my decisions are easier to not take part in, you stay far away from it. And the people that stay far away from it, it's because you don't know me anymore and you don't talk to me anymore. And you have no clue who I have become over this time frame. You're just still standing from afar watching. Billy Sampson included in that. So if he ever sees this personally, Billy, I tried telling you to your face. I tried calling you on the phone. Sorry, man, this is where it's at. With great power comes great responsibility. And you have a lot of freaking power, sir. Here's the responsibility. So I post that poem because that was the poem that I had been practicing over the summer, or over the spring, to release for the first time when the time came. That was the one that I happened to put all of the energy into because I was so angry watching MAGA take over the country, watching my neighbors who have to sleep on benches getting arrested, my neighbors who are here legally getting arrested for, like, it's insane. And I decided to release that poem. Instead of going after people in anger and lashing out, I decided to just address the whole problem. Because this is the whole reason we're in this mess to begin with. People go through abuse, and then and it's not the victim's faults. But if we aren't strong enough to talk about what we go through, there is no accountability for the abusers and the enablers. And it's happening inside the churches. It's happening inside our politicians. It's happening all over the United States right now in so many different categories, in so many different ways. So I'm speaking out right now for so much bigger than just the people in the church and just the other preachers' kids and the other pastors' wives. I'm speaking out for all of the victims that have not found their voice yet. Because I have found mine. I have found mine and I feel safe enough to use it. And so I'm going to, because that's what Jesus would do. Jesus would want to help the little people. And I am watching congregations right now suffer in silence. People in these pews suffering in silence because the leadership is not addressing these things with full transparency. They don't know how to, and I get it. Some of them don't know who to trust, and I can tell you why. It's because there was more than one preacher involved here, and it wasn't just Eddie Havner. There were other people keeping secrets too. And I don't know all of them. That's why I'm not just sharing all of them, because I'm not going to sit here and spread rumors. But I know enough facts here that I'm going to start naming names around those who need to be named. And it is not just my father. In so many ways, he has been a victim his entire life. And he needed help. Not his entire life, his upbringing. At some point, it did become a choice. But those people, instead of choosing to help him and hold him accountable and understand that mental health is a thing and you can't just pray it away, they chose to turn their eyes because of their wallets and their own ministries. So I released that poem in August creatively. I have not talked to Billy. I did not go back there and interact on that post. I didn't even attack him personally. It's the whole premise of what they're teaching. You want to talk about an antichrist, talk about somebody saying, here's the Bible, and convincing all of the Christians of something that's not biblical. That sounds like the antichrist to me. And 2 weeks later, I released a second poem. A week later, I released that second poem. And that night, about a week after I wrote and released Dear Billy, and the only thing tying him to that poem is his name in the title. Who's going to listen to me? You have thousands, tens of thousands of people that follow you. Who's going to listen to me? My tiny little voice. I didn't even put your last name out there. I put Billy out there. That was it. And I get a Venmo from him. If you have supported Billy Sampson, I would like you to know that this is how he is choosing to spend your money. Your missionary money. He sent me $500 and said, let me know if anyone else ever sends you help after you bash them publicly. One thing I will never control, in caps, and that is how much me and my family love you. Regardless of how much you hurt the 5 of us today. Selah. It triggered the mess out of me. And I almost sent the money back. I almost did. And then the Holy Spirit said God works in mysterious ways, and I did a cleanse and I paid my freaking power bill because I was about to get shut off. And I responded with, maybe you and all of your pastor buddies should have picked a different hill to die on. I am not trying to control anything. I am taking back everything you preachers and pastors helped take from me and are taking actively from this country and my children. Thanks for the money to go towards us woke people out there actually helping homeless and undocumented immigrants. What Jesus literally was. You only want to help those who look and act like you and believe like you, and that's what you've passed on. I don't blame your family. They just followed your lead. You can hold that accountability for yourself and all the silence you men have kept all for Jesus. This was never about your dumb money. With light, love, and a whole lot of lost respect for you as a missionary for Jesus. And for the sake of proving this, when I put this link on YouTube, because this is not going to just be a live, I will be adding the little screenshots up here so you guys can see it for yourself, that I'm not making this up. I did nothing with those screenshots. I kept them in my phone. And then that story resurfaced while I was in Indiana. And I realized how much Billy's still talking about me. Because he's apparently scared. I don't know. I don't know all of the dark secrets Billy's got in his closet. But I do know he hid them for my dad. And he hid it because it benefited him. And then when it didn't benefit him anymore, he took steps so far away from my father, it wasn't even funny. But when he's around him, he's going to act all buddy-buddy. And I'm speaking out about this more because I have people that are watching this more than likely right now. And you know him personally, guys. He's got a good heart, but his theology is messed up. And this is not Jesus. Because as soon as Jack Scott and Jack Hiles got out of First Baptist Church of Hammond, where Scott was taken to federal prison because he had taken one of my classmates into Michigan over state lines. He did 13 years. But you know what Billy waited for? For the mess to calm down. And you know where Billy went to? The platforms of First Baptist Church of Hammond. Think like last year or the year before. Where they still have people in power that know the abuse that I went through and did not say a thing. I'm pretty sure that same principal is the principal still there. James Woosley. I'm done. I'm naming people. You want to be in places of power? You also should be required to be a mandated reporter. Because if I'm a mandated reporter as a lunch lady, churches definitely should be. Pastors, principals, you all should be. It shouldn't have to be a state-funded school for that to be just morally good. I really, really, really did not know how I wanted to address this or if I was going to. But because of the things that I have learned over the weekend, the stories that I've been told, the people that I'm watching actively still hurt in those pews because the pastors have been lied to and don't know the truth themselves. If you are watching this and you are a victim, either of being harassed sexually, of being a child abuse victim, and you're a preacher's kid, of any of the categories, and the church has swept it under the rug. I am begging you to use your voice and not reach out to me. I mean, reach out to me for support, absolutely, and I will talk to you. I will help you find the strength to do it. But call your pastors. Call your deacons. Call the people in the congregations that come to your mind when you say, oh, they might be hurting right now. It is not gossip. You cannot heal if you don't talk about it. You can only heal with as much knowledge as you have. That is as far as you can go. And when the information is intentionally kept from you, that is sin. Sin is what keeps us apart from God. And pastors actively lying and covering up the truth is a sin. The sins that my father had already told and that were already known before he ever became a pastor were known by men that helped ordain him. And they still ordained him. Billy Sampson was one of those men. And I understand that it is not his job to control, and we cannot control people. But what kind of friend does that? Really? What kind of preacher for Jesus does that? Knowingly putting a whole congregation of people at risk with someone mentally stable in charge. And then after doing it at the first church, encourage it for a second time. But the second time, back away so that person doesn't even have the friendship to stand on anymore. That's not a friend. That is a wolf. CT is a wolf. Brandon Morris. I am saying his name. He was an evangelist when I was a teenager. I watched the church circles drop him because he struggled with addiction. And when he needed help, no one in the church helped him. His wife and his kids had their own awful journey. And it was what God had in store for that family. And I'm grateful for the healing that has come for that family. But it never came for Brandon. Because those men called him friend. And those men liked him when he was bringing them money. But the second he wasn't, they stopped. I watched that unfold. I was a teenager when I met him the first time. And I was in my early 20s when I watched Brandon Morris's funeral because he overdosed. The people he called friend didn't help him the way Jesus did. They didn't meet him where he was. They said, go get on, from my perspective, and I don't know the nitty gritty. I have no idea. But I know enough to know that there is dirt that got swept under the rug, and the people that needed help did not get it. And yes, I am angry. Yes, you can hear it in my voice. I am angry for my mom, who is going through awful, my family. I'm angry for all of the other children. I can only imagine how many other dinners did he have with other pastors where they're confiding and saying, oh, my daughter did this. Will you please pray for me? And that pastor is lying through his teeth, or he knows that pastor is lying, but he goes on spreading different lies of pray for this family. They're really going through something. No, they needed to be praying for the pastor. That was nuts. Not the children. I wasn't crazy, guys. I wasn't crazy. And I know how much that spread when I was a teenager. I know how much that spread when I left. I'm not the one that needed the prayers. I'm not the one that needed the cold shoulders. I am not the one that needed my back turned against. I needed support and love. I needed Jesus. And the people that taught me Jesus turned their backs on me because they thought I was nuts. Because the pastors told them so. And I was too afraid to speak for myself. I am speaking for the little people. I am speaking for the victims. I'm speaking for the people that helped raise me that are still sitting in those pews, that are hurting themselves because they didn't understand what was going on either. I'm going to read a couple things that I wrote down that Spirit gave me earlier, and I'm going to be done. I am asking you to share this video at this point. If you are in a church congregation and you are a church that has supported Billy Sampson, I am asking you to spread this video. Get this in the hands of the pastors that need to know it. Because there are other women that have come forward around my father. There's other children that I know that have been through abuse. And Billy is real tight with a whole lot of people. And this isn't about him. This is about holding men of God accountable. Because they are in places of power. And with great power comes great responsibility. And you know the power that I was given? The knowledge. And I didn't just hear it. I saw it. I heard it directly from the mouths of the people that experienced it. I lived it myself. And I'm not afraid to speak about it anymore. Because it's hurting too many people. Responsibility is a gift of love to yourself and of others. It is a gift. If you think responsibility is something that you have to do, and you think you're entitled to do it, you got it wrong. Amends and compassionate acceptance over ours and others' flaws and imperfections heals and strengthens all parties involved. Amends and compassionate acceptance. Amends for me does not mean that I have to stay silent. Amends for me and my journey means that I refuse to stay silent for all the times that I did. I led so many people into that church, including the one that slept with my father, my friend. My way of making amends is by making things right. And this is the only way that I can make things right for myself, is to speak the truth and to keep other people safe before I personally enable anyone else. Because me staying silent also enables the abuse to continue. Once you know it, you can't unsee it. There is strength in vulnerability. When you are accountable, you stand empowered, confident, and with integrity. And I am a person that can be held accountable. Have no problem saying where I've messed up, and I am by no means perfect. I am by no means perfect. I am doing the best I can with what I have, which is very much not much. So I told someone over the weekend that I was going to do this, and they said, I'm not telling you to stop, but I just want to warn you, they have a lot more resources than you do. And I looked at that person and I said, I'm a single mom with 4 kids, living in Section 8 housing, don't get child support. The government just pulled the grocery money that I'm getting. I don't have a vehicle, and my health is so shot that I'm filing for disability right now at the age of 30 years old. They have already taken literally everything from me. I am no longer afraid. I am going to continue to trust. Because last week when God knew that I needed $1,000 to pay the bills and get myself caught up and breathe, He showed off and sent me $1,100. Just for shits and giggles. Because that's who my God is. That's who the God of the Bible is that I learned to trust. And even if our theology doesn't match up, that's okay. You just keep loving Jesus. You just keep doing right by what you know to do right by. You keep loving people right where they are. Forget the politics. Forget if they have documentation or not. Forget if they speak the same language as you or not. These men that taught me Jesus seem to forget that He was chased and trying to be killed from the time He was born. And we don't even know about over half of His life. Over half of His life is not recorded in the Bible. So if you want to talk about the truth of the Bible, you have to look outside of just Scripture. Because Jesus is all over out there too. And that's how else I found Him. Jesus was not a soft person like they presented Him to be. Ironically enough, while they are screaming bloody murder at us about how Jesus did this in love, Jesus flipped tables. Jesus was a carpenter's son. Jesus lived a hard life and had to be able to know how to navigate that so He could come back and help people and stay calm enough to do it. And He did. I genuinely think that if we do not learn the Bible the wrong way first, we don't learn what Jesus really means. At least from my perspective. Because looking at how the Bible was pieced together, there is a lot of source and God and love all over that book. But there is also humanity in that book. And that is okay. That is okay because we are humans. And humans wrote the Bible. It was inspired by God. But that was not the hand that picked it up and picked up the pen. If you are watching this and you know Billy, he calls your home church, or your church home church. Know that I love you personally so much. And I am sharing the truth because of the love that I have for you guys. People deserve to know the truth, and you can never fully heal or be expected to heal when you're being lied to. If you are someone that needs someone to talk to and you have gone through some type of abuse here and you do not feel comfortable going to your spiritual leader, your pastor, whoever, even if you don't know me and you don't know who my dad is, but you happen to watch this video, please reach out to me. When I put the link on YouTube, I will have more information on how you can contact me and all that kind of stuff. Please reach out to me. But if you do sit in a congregation and you have a relationship with your pastor or your pastor's wife or someone that you can talk to and trust that love Jesus, go talk to them. Because that's what the church is supposed to be. A place to go get healing. The healing that Jesus spoke on. And there can't be healing when there's not honesty. I'm done now. I'm done now. That was what Spirit had. If you've watched this, thanks for watching. By tomorrow morning, I'm going to have the link on YouTube, so if you want to share it more publicly, you can. And the live here is going to stay up for about 30 days on Facebook, then it goes away. But the link will be on YouTube. The other stuff is there too. You can follow me on there. I'm on there as the Ministry Mama, and I'll put a link to that down in the comments. So if you want to just skip there, it's just easier to share the link and get the information out from there versus my Facebook, I think. But also, I'm not naming the dirty stuff. I'm not sharing the victim stories. So most of this stuff is probably going to be public if I have more things I feel I need to speak on. This is ministry for me. Jesus did the hard things. I'm choosing to do the hard things. And this is really, really hard. I don't even want to know what my heart rate is right now. But also, you guys watched me talk through this and not break down once. That is how much I am confident that the Holy Spirit said you need to speak. And I am now speaking. I am using my voice for good instead of evil. Love your neighbor, even if they don't look like you. We're all going through it right now, and it takes a village. Let's rebuild it. Act like Mary instead of the men in the Bible. Act like the women in the Bible. The men, I'm sorry, I love them all, but they liked a lot of control, and Jesus pointed it out a lot. But the women in the Bible, they followed Jesus' teachings. When Jesus said, suffer the little children, he meant when you choose to accept him and like follow him, you have to start all over and learn everything all over again. That is what he means when he means suffer the little children. And that's who comes into heaven. You don't come into heaven because you know it all. Or because you learn how to preach it well enough. That's not how that works. That's not what Jesus said. He said suffer the little children because you need to be like them. Sit down and learn something. I've learned a lot. I was a child that was seen and not heard. And I'm not a child anymore. This is with a lot of love and a lot of light. And even Billy, I have a lot of love for him, and I hope that he chooses to take this accountability and grow through it. Because I know he has a good heart for people. But on the flip side, there must be something under there that you're covering up that's not good if it's being projected this far. And it's hit me for years. So this is me using my sword of truth, the Bible, all of the scripture, all the things that I know to protect myself. You've got the Bible to back everything I've just said. And it's even in the King James. So, I'm going to go now. Okay. I'm sure this is going to get comments. I mean, there's been a couple already, but I will respond as I can. I'm really trying to set parameters around my phone, which I need to, but there's been a lot of contact from people, and I want that to continue. But if I don't get back to you right away, please know that I will get to you as soon as I can. There's a lot going on, both with this and present day. I'm a mom with kids and life, you know. Things here at home are very, very good. Very, very calm. They had a great weekend with Justin here at the house. And, you know, I'm getting back in the groove of things. So, yeah, keep loving your neighbor and doing what Jesus would do, because that's what I'm doing. All right, guys. Have a good night. Bye.